Okay. Let me put my feet up here, move my coffee and Carolines out of the way. There we go. Okay, so, hi, this is Foxpen. I previously competed in, I think it was Red Venture 4 as Gunner, the ridiculously melancholy and outrageously neutral fox. Yep, so I'm just going to be reading the judges' picks for the newest Red Venture contest. Just happy to get home in time. I just came off vacation. I was in Georgia and Louisiana visiting Marietta. And of course, New Orleans, respectively. And if you're curious, I am about 20 pounds heavier for my efforts. I regret nothing. So, Vanessa Fern is a river otter, a lady river otter. She's about 20 seasons, and she's a Yew Guard. Alright, so I just want to point out, you don't know who wants another goal, laddies. That to me sounds like a hooker saying, hey, which John's up next? Oh, Foxy, you're perv. Been in too many burlesque clubs this past week. Okay, so you don't know who wants another goal, laddies. The loud voice issuing from a small tavern in the southern end of Yew was unmistakably that of a maid. Vanessa Fern raised a foaming beaker of ale high, leaning her chair back and putting both paws upon the table. The pretty otter maid's Yew Guard uniform was almost unrecognizably rumpled. Her helmet was being used as a makeshift drinking beaker by a drunk foal, and a large hedgehog lay senseless on the opposite side of the table amidst the remains of what had obviously been a drinking contest. I like this girl already. I could chill with her. If anyone's curious, actually, this is, for so far, the first paragraph is pretty much 8 o'clock in the morning, New Orleans, every day. At least in the French Quarter. Bourbon Street. Cheers and whoops rang out from all quarters as Nessa, I guess that's short for Vanessa, she's got a nickname, Nessa, Nessie, grinned in victory. When no other drinking partners appeared forthcoming, the otter maid quaffed. You know, I've never actually known how to pronounce that word. I know exactly what it means. I know how to spell it. But whenever I see it, I have no idea how it's pronounced. Anyway, she Q-U-A-F-F-E-D her tankard, and sauntered to the barrel for a refill. As she walked back, someone called to her. "Oi, Nessie, show him that jug of yourn with the tankard." Winking at her audience, the otter maid raised a full tankard and settled it on her head with graceful confidence. Under the admiring gazes of half the tavern, she walked to her table, her swaying hips keeping the vessel in perfect balance as she basked in the attention. What a whore. Unexpectedly, something hit her footpaw, and the floor was suddenly rising up to meet her. Intoxicated though she was, Nessa retained much of her well-known agility. Rolling forward, she tumbled her fall into a somersault and bellowed up with ale dripping from her chestnut head fur. Fiercely, her green eyes roved the room until they settled on a smirking otter a head taller than she. The otter maid marched up to him until they stood nose to nose. "You tripped me." It wasn't a question so much as a statement. Well, obviously. The big male smirked wider, slurring as he turned back to his drink. "Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't, me pretty." Nessa's eyes flashed as she shoved her face in his. "I'm warning you, bucko. Struck my fur the wrong way just one more time and I'll—" "And you'll do what, Nessie?" "That!" Gleefully, the otter maid punched him right in the nose with all her strength and pushed his chair over, slamming him into the mouse sitting next to him. It was the signal for an all-out brawl. Tankards bounced off heads. Well, there's a spelling mistake there. Tankards bounced of heads. Someone burnt his tail in a fireplace, and wild punches were traded over overturned chairs and spilt ale. Nessa was right in the middle of the action, smacking creatures left and right to get her to her opponent, head-butting the vole who'd been drinking in her helmet under the table as she went. Suddenly, a gust of bitter-cold wind blew in as the door opened, letting in 3 tall figures in Yew Guard uniforms. The room immediately got quiet. Creatures paused, acknowledging the authority of the town protectors. Gambling sets quickly disappeared along with loud discussion. Both uniformed squirrels and the otter officer wore stern faces and nodded curtly as they strode through the room. The fighters at the far end of the tavern melted away like snow under the sun at their approach, leaving only the otter maid sprawled lazily on the floor. Nessa blinked and looked up through the rather nice black eye she had acquired, only to find herself staring straight into the grim face of her commander. Ooh. Still flopped on the floor, she saluted and grinned cheekily. "Evening, Sarge." The two squirrels hauled the miscreant up firmly. I love that word, miscreant. Bonus points just for using miscreant there, Nessa. The two squirrels hauled the miscreant up firmly by her shoulders and started frog marching her forcefully towards the door. "Ach, let go of me, you bottle-brush, snaggle-tooth, poker-faced clods! Oh, stop it!" Nessa gasped as her face was hit by a wave of freezing air and the door slammed behind her. The big otter stood over her, and Nessa instinctively knew there was no way to get around it this time. "You, Miss Fern, are without a doubt the worst guard I have ever had the misfortune of training. Fighting and drinking in a tavern. Have you no shame, miss?" There's a missing comma there. "You are undermining the reputation of all your comrades in the entire Yew Guard. And this is not the only time you've behaved so irresponsibly. If only your father were still here, he'd have a thing or two to say about your behavior." Nessa's eyes sparkled angrily as she yelled at the sergeant. "My father's dead, you grey domardorm. Dead, you hear? And you can't say what he'd think about me." Wearily, the otter turned with a command to his subordinates. "Take her to the lockhouse for the night." Well, that was a fun nap. Nothing quite like a tavern brawl to get the blood pumping. Not too many grammar errors, just one or two commas. The F key stuck on the word off a couple times. Well, I think it's actually only once. The accent's pretty controlled, which is always good. When writing accents, I am always terrified that people are going to think it's just a gimmick. But you can definitely tell there's some Highland there in Nessie. And there's some diversity in that not everyone uses the same accent. Until the Sarge has a more crystal clear voice, probably speaks with a British accent, as Redwall is a British book series. Nessa is obviously touchy about her father. That is a good bit of characterization. She's not only a fun-loving, not quite a lady, but she has daddy issues. And I wonder if she acts out because she misses her dad, or there's something unrequited there. She was after his forgiveness, or he was after hers, and there's some regret going on. So I'd be actually interested to see where this character goes, if only for a week or two, if not more, because she seems fun, and the writing's solid. Dialogue is pretty good. Dialogue's always hard to write, especially when you're squishing it into a mere 750 words. So a strong app, a solid app at least. I haven't read the others yet, so I don't really have much to compare it to. But yeah, looks pretty good. Alright, on to the second one. Let's just make sure everything's working. Yeah, okay. So Gashrock, the lady rat. She's in her early 30s, and she's part of the acting troupe. I like rat ladies. I do. Rats are fun to play. No one really seems to play them too much anymore. They're the common horde animals, so they're not really interesting unless they're like the main horde leader. And yeah, so let's see what happens here with Gashrock. Very traditional Redwallian name, Gashrock. I like it. Okay, so here we go. Let's have a sip of my Carolina coffee. Oh, that's good stuff. Alrighty. The purple robe spread over the seated rat as she ran her paws down the seams. It was of a rich, bright color, and it would hang splendidly over her should she slip it on. Sorry, oh man. You know what, let's start that over. I don't like messing up the first sentence. Sorry, Gashrock. The purple robe spread over the seated rat as she ran her paws down the seams. It was of a rich, bright color, and it would hang splendidly over her should she slip it on. It wouldn't do in the slightest. Carefully setting it down, Gashrock paced the room to pick up her dagger. That felt light, but then there was no need for extreme force. Instead, she returned to pick the robe back up, holding it at paw's distance as her left paw sliced. One slit, another, and soon the bottom of the robe was framed. Much better. "Oi!" came a rough knock from the door. "What are you at?" "Costuming," Gashrock called back without moving. "Can I come in?" "Aye, watch your step," she said. White Paw, a ferret, opened the door, pushing several scraps towards the wall as he did so. He looked around, then blinked. "What are you doing, cutting them nice clothes all up?" "They look funny," Gashrock explained. "Fancy gowns ain't right for us travelling folk. Have to do that ruddy old mouth again. She wouldn't have worn anything this nice. Gotta cut it up. DEWHURST won't want you wasting scraps. DEWHURST can't tell the difference between a loony lament and a merry minstrelly. What's it? Gashrock trailed off. Oh, DEWHURST could memorize them all just fine. Brilliant vixen, no one better to work for. But no matter how hard the rat tried to cater to her audience, hopeful songs for squirming children or vulgar ditties for drunken revelers, sometimes it felt like DEWHURST was never going to care. Whitepaw blinked again. Melody? In it. It's not like she'll know the difference between a proper robe and an old travelling cloak neither. You're working too hard is all I'm saying. Come on, have a drink. Oh, was the one wasted now? That's enough grog. No, that's not enough grog for all of us. There's not enough grog for all of us. Sorry, Gashrock. There is if you drink slow. You mean cookies diluted it. Shove off, I'm busy. It's just shows, isn't it? Everyone knows you're just pretending to be some kind of a mouse or, what's it now, rabbit. Whitepaw attempted to mime a creature with larger ears than his own. Keep up, those are hares. Oh, go and boil your head. Ooh, Gashrock grinned. May I? Only the way it's going with grog beans, oh dear. I'm sure Cookie would just love something new to try. Fresh rat head for all. Do you think I'll be big enough to pass around? Probably not, even if, for some dismal reason, the troop had all of her to gnaw on. Short for her seasons. Oh, sorry, I've read that like dialogue. Probably not. Even if for some dismal reason the troop had all of her to gnaw on. Short for her seasons, Gashrock could fit into plenty of robes, hemming them to fit her rather than having to shrink back into anything too small. Never mind, Whitepaw groaned. Good luck with all your work. Oi, said Gashrock, stepping forward. Instantly her left paw reached toward the sleeves of the gown, but then cut apart slightly, to retrieve the dagger which had been stowed in an impromptu pocket fashioned from the other scraps. This here is some practical advantages. Whitepaw backed out of the room. Once he was out of sight, Gashrock followed after to sort the fabric lying on the ground. Yes, there was still work to be done. First and foremost, I apologize to Gashrock for reading that so horribly. I am sight reading all of these. I've never seen them before. This is the first time I've looked into the judges' picks. So yeah, I read that terribly. I apologize. I'm sure it sounds better in everyone's head. Once again, accents, bit verminy. That's always good to see some yers and melodies and some careful pronunciations of words that some traveling folk would find perhaps a bit fanciful, eh? Yeah, about the dialogue, it's good. Very conversational based, although it was a little boring, I gotta admit. Just a touch. So, Gashrock is small, we do know that, and got the writer fit in a bit of physical description. I personally tend to avoid that in mine, just because I try to convey more personality than everything. If you get into the contest, there's always more time to talk about what the character looks like. Plus, there's always the artist's interpretation. Gotta sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, Whitepaw seems cool. You don't learn a lot about him, which is fine. He's a secondary character. You don't need to know anything about him, really, but we know he's named Whitepaw. He's a dude. He's a ferret. And he knows how Gashrock ticks. Knows she likes to drink a little bit. Don't come across as an alcoholic or anything, but you know she likes taste of grog. I like how the cook is named Cookie. It's the oldest stereotype in the book. It's such a faithful fallback, but whenever a cook is named Cookie, I find that awesome. All cooks should be named Cookie. Whenever I cook, I demand to be called Cookie personally, eh? So it's always fun. A little tricky poo there. The fact that she doesn't know the difference between, or rather, Whitepaw doesn't know the difference between a hare and a rabbit, that seems a little weird to me. They are a traveling actor troupe. Surely they've seen both hares and rabbits. Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this app right now. I I probably will later when I reread everything. Once again, I'm sorry to the writer of Gashrock that I messed up the reading so bad. I am sight reading everything, just so everyone is clear on that. Gashrock is a costumer. That's unique. Of the contests I've read, and I'll admit I have been out of the ROC for quite some time, and last time I was in the ROC as Gunnar had some kidney issues that prevented me from writing my own death post, which was very upsetting. And Gunnar did have a seamstress wife, and I think Rena was the wife's assistant. Rena was a fox vixen who worked for a seamstress in that competition. So that's the last time I've actually seen a cloth worker. So if there's been a few since then, well, sorry, I've been away for a while. Yeah, so I'll probably come back to Gashrock, and I just noticed Balmafula's icon is a Venipede. That's adorable. I love those Pokemon. I love poison Pokemon. Oh my god, they're so freaking cute. Anyways, yep, so Gashrock is capable of making friends. The friendship seemed legitimate too with White Paw. That's good for a vermin. Doesn't have a lot of teeth though. No teeth. She seems like a good vermin, or like she has capabilities of it. She's probably got a little bit of slyness to her, and that she's a bit of a joker with the dagger up the sleeve. That's good. So, if if Gashrock does make it into the competition, I would like to see more personality. Dialogue was fine. Just a bit boring. That's all. Overall, good app. Good app. Not the most memorable. A little bit boring. Sorry, Gashrock. Okay, so here is the third app that has been posted, the judges' picks. Oh, it's a toad! Oh, a toad. You never see many amphibians and lizards in these competitions. I don't even remember the name of the lizard, the monitor lizard that was in Red Venture 4, the one that I wrote in as Gunnar. But that was a little monitor lizard. I think his name was Slip. I don't remember. Anyway, this gentle toad is Carrigul. That's an awesome name. Oh, I love it. And he's a bit old, actually. He's a senior. He's in golden years, 60 plus years, and he's a merchant. Alright, let's get to it. And to the writer of Carrigul, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. To also, if I muddle up the words, I am sight reading again, so sorry everyone, sorry. Coffee. Sorry. Sorry. Aren had tried to run. The fool's bloodied body smacked to the floor with a thick slap of meat on stone. Enemies who ran from Carrigul never made it far. The rat guards had found this one before he'd even made it past Yew, and hauled him, wailing, to Carrigul's own chamber. The squirrel's face was a swollen mess of purple bruises, and his breath wheezed from him in ragged whistles. He was a far cry from the smart young merchant who had borrowed a bag full of gold the month before. "You stink of fear." Carrigul's voice was quivering with danger. Trembling, Aren forced his eyes to meet those of the toad, who sat before him at a table spread with 2 goblets, a bottle, and a knife. In the darkness, all that could be seen of the enormous creature was the amber glint of his eyes and the wide, unflinching curve of his mouth. Fingers of panic began to quicken in Aren's chest. The lidless stare lingered on him a second longer. Good. I like a beast who knows when to be afraid. Uncorking the bottle, Carrigul poured out a slick flow of wine into each cup and pushed one towards Aren. "However," the toad said, "I am hospitable to my business partners. Drink." Knowing better than to object, Aren crawled to his feet and took the goblet. The wine was exquisite, but turned to vinegar in his mouth as he felt the 2 rat guards shuffle behind him. They were waiting. "We are business partners, aren't we, Aren? I was under the impression we had a deal." Aren heard his own hapless voice trickling from him. "Carrigul, please. I meant to have the money by today. The fool does not exist who would mean not to pay me. Yet here you are. Where is my money?" There was nothing Aren could say. Nearly every merchant in North Mossflower had borrowed from Carrigul. There seemed to be no amount he could not provide, though no beast knew how he had amassed his seemingly infinite treasury. Some said he'd been a merchant once, until he discovered the secret that nothing breeds gold like gold itself, and forced his fellow traders into the stranglehold of debt. Now he guarded his business like a dragon to its hoard. Aren had never met any beast who had failed to pay him. 1 week, the squirrel croaked. That's all I ask. Carrigul twitched, but his face remained expressionless. Obviously, you didn't hear me. I asked you where my money is. I've had a poor harvest, Aren eventually said. Please understand. Without crops, I have nothing to sell. My stall is failing, and I need your money to feed my family. Please, my wife is with child and growing weak. She'll die if I do not get healers, and once I have paid them, there's nothing left. My own children are starving. I'll get your money. I'll pay any rate you want. Just 1 more week. Just 1. The toad took a long sip of wine as he considered this. I see. You have spent my gold tending to your spawning wife. There was a brief silence before Carrigul's mottled throat began to pulsate with a guttural laughter as coarse as sea-hewn rocks. He seized his knife. Before Aren had a chance to react, the toad slammed the blade into his paw. He screamed and jerked back, but Carrigul forced the knife deeper, grinding it into the table. The toad brought his face so close to the squirrel's that Aren could feel the creature's breath on his cheek. Do I look like a charity to you? Aren let out an agonizing moan, his paw twitching around the knife. Licking away the blood that had spurted onto his face, Carrigul resumed his placid demeanor as quickly as he had broken it. You have 1 week, because I am merciful. But that is a promise. This is a promise. Fail me again, and I will rip your children limb from limb. He tore the blade from Aren's paw, and the squirrel immediately fell backwards, sobbing desperately. Ignoring the squirrel's cries, the toad turned to his 2 rack guards. It was time the traders of Yew learnt what it meant to cheat Carrigul. Before I even read this last sentence, find the pregnant wench and slit her throat. That should make it easier for him to pay. Oh my god, I'm in love with Carrigul. Oh my god, I have my babies. Fuck! I almost swore there, but I changed it. See what I did? I changed it. Okay, wow, Carrigul. No wonder you're in the judges' picks. Spectacular writing. For 750 words, you crammed so much in there, neatly so, that it doesn't even feel crammed or cluttered. I know exactly what Carrigul is about. I know exactly his personality. I see him in my head. He's a mobster. He is a mobster, essentially. He's a loan shark with taste, and that makes him a mobster, and I love him. I love him. The writing is descriptive without being flowery. You say enough, and then you give us dessert on top of dinner, too. So, I have been hosted to a most delicious application right here. I will be voting for Carrigul, plain and simple. You are my favorite of the 3 I've read so far. These are the only 3 posted in the judges' picks, of course. So, if you don't get into the main competition, I will be surprised. To whoever the writer of Carrigul is, well done. Well done, sir, madame. That is a spectacular example of an application. I didn't notice any grammatical errors or any spelling mistakes. Of course, I only went over this once. And I try not to hold spelling mistakes against anyone and minor grammatical mistakes, unless you're like a missing comma or like an F missing from off. You know, a keyboard sticks sometimes, and if you read the application, your own application over and over, you will miss something. It's always good to have someone else read an app, just as someone who's not involved, just to spag it, just to edit it, because, you know, fresh eyes breed fresh errors. Yeah. I like Carrigul. I really like this guy. So, yeah. That's all from Foxpen today. Or at least for now. I don't know if I'll get to reviewing the other apps. Carrigul had me actually shivering, but even before I read the last sentence there, find the pregnant wench and slit her throat. That is something I'd write. That is something I'd write in one of my novels. One of the evil characters. This is a vermin here, Carrigul, that has some teeth on him. And not just teeth. He's not hesitant to order death or anything. I am curious to see if, as a toad, he will... Toads tend to be very cowardly in the Redwall books, especially the leader toads. They always have others do their dirty work for them. But the only thing I want to see about Carrigul is if he will be able to hurt, maim, or kill anyone himself. That's all I want to know. And hopefully Carrigul makes it in the competition, because I'd love to see more of this fellow right here. Well done to all 3 applications I've just read. Vanessa Fern, absolutely hilarious, wonderful app. Gashrock, very creative, I'm loving it. And Carrigul, marry me? Alright, anyway, I'm just finishing my coffee up here right now, so good timing on my half. Go me! Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyways, chat to y'all later. Cheers.